The after-hours badge he did disable, the night the glass office learned our hands. At 9:11 p.m., my phone vibrated with a message from an app I'd installed 2 jobs ago and never reconfigured. "Hi Evan, your after-hours access has been used. Nestwork's 17th floor, 9:07 p.m. badge holder. Cam, guest, R. Vega. If this wasn't you, tap report." Below it, a thumbnail from the lobby camera showed a sliver of glass revolving, a bare wrist passing under a square of light, a shoulder I knew the way you know the frequency of your own name. The apartment was trying to be loyal to me. The desk lamp kept the corner warm on purpose. Tomato soup rolled a soft trick of a boil on the back burner because I'd promised us comfort without scale. On the counter, a loaf of rosemary bread breathed out its herbs as if domesticity were a strategy. I stood with the phone in my palm and felt the room pick a temperature that wasn't mine. The app thought I was in 2 places at once. The app had never been good at nuance. Cam left at 8 with the jacket that flatters him even when mirrors have other plans. "Wrap toast," he'd said, 2 words that make celebration sound like minutes. Then notes with Raph about the festival queue. "Don't wait." He kissed me in the doorway with the precise tenderness of a signature, the kind that verifies rather than persuades. We share the usual sprawl of logins. Airline points, coffees that promise free ones if you are patient. That co-working badge still linked to both our names because we're the sort of couple who picks convenience until we're bored of it. The second notification arrived while I stared at the first. Room Osprey reserved at 9:15 p.m. by Cam. Duration: 60 guests added. R. Vega. External lights dimmed. It offered to send me directions to a place I'd helped paint 2 summers ago, a floor of glass channels and concrete that believed in itself. The word Osprey made something below my ribs look for water. I didn't text him. The distance between a thumb and a decision can be a cliff. I turned the burner off, slid the bread back into the paper like a body you intend to keep warm, and took the jacket that knows how to stay quiet. In the elevator down, I watched my reflection rehearse faces until none of them embarrassed me enough to keep. Nestworks at night is a different animal. The lobby plants become proper citizens. The lighting decides it wants to be honest. The security guard leans toward a crossword like purity. He didn't stop me because my face is old news here, and my name still lives inside the building's logic. The badge reader glowed approval, and the turnstile let me practice humility in motion. The 17th floor forgot to be an office after dark. The city pressed its forehead to the glass in long pains. The carpet performed silence with dignity. Frosted vinyl spelled out birds over meeting rooms, and my thumb found Osprey before the hall did. Around the corner I could see the brightness leaking under the door. Warm, expensive, set for a version of intimacy not designed for typing. I didn't go in. I stood where the corridor kinked toward a supply closet and listened to the kind of laughter that lives on breath rather than volume. Someone set a glass down on wood like a good idea being careful. A chair moved, rubber foot honest against carpet. Raph's voice said, "Not a word," the friction between 3. Cam made the sound he makes when he's relieved he won't have to be the most interesting person in the room. I should have knocked. I'm not brave. I'm not a headline. I walked to the kitchenette instead and poured water because hydration passes for integrity if you hold the glass properly. When I set it down, the door to Osprey opened as if the room had learned to forget we were closed. Cam stepped out first, sleeves rolled to an argument, hair doing the kind of disobedience that looks like charm if you aren't tired. Behind him, Raphael, Raph to everyone who has used his name in rooms with better sound, leaned in the doorway as if he had been practicing furniture all along. His mouth has the sideways kindness of someone who listens for money. The three of us stood in a geometry the floor knew how to keep secret. Evan, Cam said, my name with the softness of a receipt. Your building and I are still seeing each other, I said. Humor is the leash I use to keep panic from fetching the wrong thing. It sent me a love note about your evening. Raph didn't move, which was its own nervous excellence. The corridor outside Osprey blinked with the small blue of the motion sensor, then dimmed back as if it respected rituals. I'll give you to the room, Raph said quietly, competence without apology. Stay, I said, because I didn't want to build a theater set I'd have to climb over later. If I wanted privacy, I would have sent a camera angle, not my shoes. The balcony on this floor is a shallow curve of glass and air reputed to sell memberships to visiting founders. At night, the rails grow a thin diamond of condensation where your hand wants to live. We found that outside space like men looking for an extra drawer. The city below rehearsed being sumptuous. A ferry moved across the black like piano keys. I lied when I left, Cam said. He didn't decorate it. Rap happened. People kissed their best grammar. Then I told myself I needed 30 minutes where wanting isn't a thing I make small so it fits into a tender version of being good. Which direction? I asked, not bothering to hide the name. Names are handles and I like my hands full when the floor tilts. Raph. Raph kept his eyes on the river, which is also a choice. He wanted to hear something that wasn't an answer, he said. Uncomplicated truth stands up without props. Are you sleeping with him? The question is a cliff. There isn't a scenic route. You count to one and do the adult thing with your mouth. Not yet, Cam said, clean, immediate. Then he dropped his voice to the honesty that knows exactly which muscle will bruise. I brought my mouth. The railing put a narrow crescent of cold against my wrist. I looked at Cam and did the thing my body knows how to do at the exact wrong time. I put 2 fingers over the place where his pulse writes my name without permission. His eyes closed because instruction can be kindness. Raph angled his body 2 degrees more invisible and let the city be his alibi. You like the kind of wanting that proves something kindness can't, I said, not cruel. Cruelty is the lazy substitute for precision. You treat intimacy like a sport and honesty like off-season training. You like to coach, Cam said. One corner of his mouth pictured a bad idea and refused to impersonate it, which is unfair and probably why the rest of this works. What do you want? I asked. Not tomorrow, not the apology you drafted for daylight. What do you want that can stand up out here where glass pretends to forget? He stepped that last small distance that had turned into a lie while we were talking. The heat off him learned my jacket carefully. His voice found my lower lip. I want to go home, he said. I want you to want me where our mugs know our mouths and the only light is the one the hallway forgets to turn off. I want to stop auditioning in rooms that don't buy tickets. Raph let out a breath that wasn't approval, oxygen navigation, nothing more. He's louder with you, he said, still looking at the ferry, still being thoughtful furniture. That hurt correctly. It also realigned me. I lifted Cam's chin with the same 2 fingers and kissed him, not hunger first, but relief. Relief is the kind of appetite you can walk across a bridge without anybody noticing. He leaned into it like debt, and the math finally made sense. My hand slid under his shirt to the heat at the small of his back where his body keeps its best arguments. He made the low sound he cannot perform on cue. The glass threw our outlines back thinner than truth. I used my mouth to thicken ours. I stopped before the room could pretend to be a witness. He didn't try to follow. He let his forehead rest against mine because punctuation has a better success rate than grammar. Raph turned aside, a silhouette not asking for camera time. Inside Osprey, the motion sensor blinked and the lights agreed to be generous one more time. "Come home," I said. "We'll do sentences in the morning. Verbs cost more, but they pay back." Cam nodded, Hinge discovering its use. We left the balcony the way people step down from a stage they never wanted to own. In the elevator, the mirror wrote my name backward like a dare, and I read it easily. The guard in the lobby didn't look up. The crossword had finally surrendered. Outside, Weather declined to narrate us, which I respected. Back in the apartment, the soup had behaved with ridiculous loyalty. We ate it at the counter with the bread torn by hand because knives would have made it ceremonial. Cam watched my mouth as if time were a door, and we both knew how to turn the handle. I slid my palm under his shirt again to the warm place where his back keeps its best arguments. He leaned into me heavy with gratitude. We were careful in bed, not the kind that kills heat, the kind that knows where to fold it. He knows where to set his palm on my ribs so that the rest of me turns without considering a descent. I know where his shoulder hides when it doesn't want to confess, and how to coax it into truths that don't require a transcript. I won't give you choreography. I'll tell you the room remembered to breathe. I'll tell you we returned most of what we borrowed from the night and kept the warmth because the morning wouldn't miss it. We slept the sleep that has terms and conditions. Morning buttoned a clean shirt on our choices. He made coffee the way he does when he wants me to listen. I opened the window and let Mercy make as many passes through the room as it could afford. The badge app still hovered on the screen between us, a blue dot pretending to be legal. He started with small truths because small truths keep the larger ones standing upright. The notes had run long. The glass made the city feel negotiable. Raf's attention had the kind of grammar he wanted to try on. Then he ran out of script and said the part I could keep. He said he is tired of being interesting for a living. He said he wanted, briefly and embarrassingly, to be wanted like children are, stupid and honest and badly lit. He said he imagined my mouth more than once in that room and felt ashamed of the math. He said he was sorry like a man who knows sorry is a tool, not an eraser. I didn't forgive him at the counter. Forgiveness is a daylight animal in morning's charge. I told him to put on the coat that doesn't belong to glass offices and walk with me by the river where the ferry writes its schedule in sound. On the promenade, a runner's breath taught us both something about cadence. He hooked his thumb in my pocket like humility. I let him. 2 afternoons later, I saw Raf in a lobby that smelled like ambition and lemon. He gave me the nod men give when they have chosen to be furniture on purpose. He didn't apologize and I didn't deputize. We took the elevator mirror between us, and it spelled our names backward without judgment. It isn't that we agreed. It's that we learned how to read ourselves both ways. Nestwork still sends tidy little notices. I don't trust their fonts or my inbox. I trust the heat under Cam's shirt at the small of his back, the way the light climbs our wall at 4, the sound our apartment makes when one of us opens the door with the quiet anyone can learn. If a badge ever insists on telling me a story the night would rather write itself, I will do what I did from the glass office. Find air, choose kissing over theater, walk him home with my hand on the part of him that knows the address, and keep teaching our door, gentle, stubborn, local, to open from the inside.